was an ordinary day in Jerusalem. The streets were busy as usual, full of people going about their business, when suddenly something strange started to happen. Everyone started to gather along the sides of the main road into the city. People began to shout and wave. Some even grabbed branches from the trees. Along the street, a man was coming. "It's Jesus!" someone shouted.
The noise was deafening. "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord! Hosanna!" they shouted. Some men even took off their coats and threw them on the ground in front of Jesus.
Everyone seemed joyful and pleased that Jesus was coming into the city. But everyone was not pleased that Jesus had come to Jerusalem. Some of the religious leaders hated him. They did not like the power he seemed to have over the ordinary people. These religious leaders plotted to have Jesus killed. But who could help them? They needed someone to tell them where to find Jesus, away from the crowds. Judas was a friend of Jesus's, one of his followers. He agreed to betray Jesus for 30 pieces of silver.
On the Thursday night, Jesus met with his closest friends for a special meal. Before the meal started, Jesus took a bowl of water and a towel and began washing his disciples' feet. This was the job a servant would normally do, but Jesus wanted to show everyone that serving was a good thing. They all sat together eating and talking. Then Jesus took some bread and broke it and said, "This is what's going to happen to my body. It'll be broken for you." Then he took some red wine and said, "And this is like my blood, which will be spilt for you." His disciples were shocked. Then Jesus said, "Do this as a way of remembering what is going to happen to me." Now, all over the world, Christians take bread and wine as a way of remembering the Easter story. As they were finishing the meal, Jesus predicted that someone would betray him. Judas got up quietly and left.
After supper, Jesus and his disciples went out to a place called the Garden of Gethsemane. It was beautiful here and quiet. Jesus wanted to pray, but while he prayed, his disciples fell asleep. As he prayed, Jesus knew what was about to happen to him, and he was very distressed. But he also knew that he was the only one who could do this thing, and it was very important, so he chose not to run away. Then they heard the sound of marching feet. Judas arrived with some soldiers. Jesus was arrested. The disciples woke up and ran away. Later, Judas was sorry for betraying Jesus. He was beaten and tortured by the soldiers. Jesus was taken to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate. Pilate was the only one who could sign an execution order to have Jesus killed. Pilate went before the crowd and asked them what they wanted him to do. The religious leaders had gone through the crowd, influencing them, so that they shouted, "Crucify him!" Pilate washed his hands in front of the crowd to show them that this was not what he wanted.
Pilate signed the death warrant. On the Friday, Jesus was led through the streets of Jerusalem.
How could I express all my gratitude? I could sing these songs.
The soldiers gambled to see who would get Jesus' clothes.
But every song must end, and you never do. So I throw up my hands and praise you again and again. 'Cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not much, but I've nothing else fit for.
One of the soldiers watched Jesus die.
For a heart sing.
Then he said that he truly believed that Jesus was who he said he was, that Jesus was the Son of God.
Early on Sunday morning, some women came to Jesus' tomb. They had taken Jesus' body down from the cross and put it in a tomb. Across the entrance to the tomb, they had rolled a large stone. As the women walked along, there was an earth tremor, and when they came to the tomb, the stone in front of it had been moved. When they looked inside, Jesus' body was missing. The women were upset. Just then Mary, one of the women, saw a man standing nearby. It was Jesus. He was not dead. He had come back to life. The women ran to tell the other disciples of Jesus what they had seen. Over the next 6 weeks, Jesus appeared to his friends and disciples many times. On one occasion, some of Jesus' disciples had spent all night fishing and caught nothing. At dawn, as they drew close to the beach, they saw a man. He told them to cast their nets on the other side of the boat. And immediately the nets filled with fish. It was Jesus. They all had fried fish for breakfast together. Jesus talked to them. Christians believe that God came into our world as a man called Jesus and died for every single one of us. He died to take the punishment for all the bad things that we say and do and think. Christians believe that Jesus is alive today and can live in your heart. He came back to life again to show us that we too can have full life with him in heaven.